Today, I think we're going to be jumping in with a ranged user. I did also receive a comment about wanting to see a deep elf wizard type character, so at some point we might pivot over to that as well. We still need that Sif Muna win at some point, but for the time being, I think I'm feeling the ranger, so we're gonna jump in and see how that goes. But of course, who knows what the dungeon has in store, so without further ado, let's get ready to hop into it, shall we? Oh, good old Jimmy. But I believe last week I was kind of torn between Formicid or potentially doing a Baraki here. And I'm still not in the most decisive of moods. I think we might go Formicid because we haven't had a good Formicid showing in a little bit here. And I'm a sucker for getting to use the crossbows with shields. So at the end of the day, a little bit of stasis is a small price to pay for that. Of course, it will also depend on which god we end up going with here. Potentially Fedhas being a very classic kind of ranger god here. But we shall see. So let's just get ready to hop in. I definitely should have come up with a name before we started the stream today. Ant. I feel like we've already done Aunt May. I'm not feeling very creative here. Let's go with... Oh gosh, as I'm just completely stalling out, my brain has absolutely zero suggestions going into this. Hugh Ant, I think we've already done before. We're running out of easy to place pun names for ants because we've had quite a few Formicids over the last couple years or however long it's been here. So let's just go with Ant. Not at all creative, but I got nothing going for me here today. So in the interest of not stalling here for the rest of the evening, especially since this is going to be a relatively shorter stream, or at least that's the plan, let's just hop into it, shall we? Oh me oh my. I knew I was forgetting something going into this, or at least I generally have something slip through the cracks of the old brainstem here, but not too much of an issue. We'll of course go through with all of our usual pre-game setup here, last but not least of which, setting up that morgue file so that we can steal that seed, paste it up on screen here in just a moment, just in case any of you lovely folks are playing along at home, seeing how you fare in these same trying dungeons. Okie dokie. And with that out of the way, guess we just hop into it. Of course, forgetting that I have dig on my quick cast key here is a classic Formicid issue, so let's swap that over to the short bow. Even though tab now works properly for ranged characters, I find that old habits die hard, and so I still generally like to keep to the old ways, as it were. Ooh, and we're definitely finding ourselves in a relatively tricky spot early on. Fortunately, nothing our good old Ant here can handle, and that is fantastic. Vampiric short sword. I mean, that would be half decent. Unfortunately, it would take a little bit of skill training to get it fully off the ground and running here. As we see, ooh, a distortion branded dagger. Fortunately, that son of a gun gets nowhere near us. Times like that are when we're very happy to be playing a ranged character instead of one of our usual sword and board style approaches. So that is wonderful. And I almost spoke too soon as the endoplasm takes a huge chunk of our hit points away from us. But shouldn't be too much of an issue, of course, on a character like this. The first few floors of the dungeon generally aren't too much of a end to the story. Oh, no, I can't even get to that little section where we saw our good old wormy pal. But perfect. We mentioned Fedhas at the top of the session here. The other option that I'm potentially looking at is the Shining one. Shine 1 is pretty good on any style of character, especially if you are fortunate enough to run across many, many demons throughout the course of your journey, then that pays off in a huge way. But it has a soft spot in my heart specifically for Formicid Hunters because it is the one non-mage style run that we've actually successfully gone through a 15 rune run with. I think the only other one since that point has been an Iskaya Stabber, and I'm not sure if we did that on camera. Cannot recall. Hey Brain, how's it going? Hope things are going well for you. Have you been playing much of the new season of the finals? Just dropped recently, didn't it? I do recall watching you play that and enjoying it. Still haven't tried it out myself. Things have gone away from me in that regard. The only new game I've played in the last long while here is actually Played Up. I very recently got into Played Up with my partner, and then just last night I introduced one of my siblings to it as well, and the three of us were playing together and having a lot of fun. I'm definitely a big fan of Overcooked. I played that a lot back in the day and introduced it to a lot of different folks just because of how much silly fun you can have with different groups of people playing that game. And then Played Up, I feel, scratches a similar itch while also getting my my roguelike, or I guess roguelite tendencies tickled as well. No helmet for us today. Unfortunately, our antennas do not allow for such transgressions. Jeez Louise. Ribbonworm friend and a guardian spirit amulet might as well put on. You know, some boots. Also lovely to see, getting us a little bit more armor class as we continue forward here. That's something that our ranger characters generally struggle with. I mean, I can probably just kill you on the approach. Oof. Not quite as sure of a thing as I was originally hoping. Unfortunately, we weren't dealing too much damage with each of those shots. So I guess for now we'll head down a different stairwell and just hope that we don't run into that son of a gun in the least fortunate way. Especially since, yeah, we're definitely coming across some monsters that we haven't fought so far in the run, and I'm slightly worried, even with that Bombardier beetle. Again, in a thing or in a fashion that has unfortunately become common these days on the stream, I am finding myself at a lack of vocal abilities here, linguistic abilities, and orc priest plus ogres. This might just be a Shaft Self situation. We could call in some butterflies and hope that they orient themselves in such a way to be a good escape. In fact, we could take another couple steps to the left. If we take one bad hit from the ogre, I'll definitely be regretting my decisions in life. But if we take a look at them, 42% chance to hit. If you could please just miss. Thank you. I appreciate it. Bit of random energy coming in there to bring us, unfortunately, a little closer to death than I'd like. But fortunately, we do manage to escape, and that's a lot more consistent than needing to shaft ourselves, because, of course, who knows what the lower floors would have in store for us? Morningstar Flaming. Don't think I'll take you at the moment. At some point, we'll run into all of our friends here. Hopefully, it's in a slightly more advantageous configuration, or at least something that we deem manageable. But unfortunately, we don't have any real promises in the matter. Still don't have many more efficient ways to take care of our ogre friend. And I'll probably just continue to brute force this fight. If we get a little more poisoned, we definitely find ourselves in a spot of hot water there, but fortunately, does not end up being the case, so it's not the end of the world here. You know, let's, take you. You've probably shouted to start attracting some attention, But by walking the other direction, we can try to break up the group here. And there we go. That's more like it for dealing with our large spike-clubbed friend. Ooh, fantastic. At this point, Ribbonword's not really a problem for us in terms of survivability, but definitely a pain in the rear when it comes to taking us out of our flow state, because the webs, of course, block our ability to fire off shots. Oof. And a hasted Blork with an electric longsword, 57% chance to hit us. I almost wish that you just continued to throw magic from afar, my friend. I mean, we could try a couple turns. Definitely was not worth it. Whoa. Actually, what happened there? Blork, why did you suddenly... Oh. Since when does the butterfly scroll knock people back and fill in the intervening space? That is lovely. Well, in that case, we'll still find ourselves in a spot of hot water, but fortunately the continued summoning of butterflies saving our bacon there. Jeez Louise. Well, I guess that stairwell is not especially welcoming to our kind. Honestly, this one might not be much better. That is a lot of unfriendly faces that we're immediately introduced to. Jeez Louise. And it doesn't seem to be getting better quite yet. The very least, this might be one that we can fight through. Still just a couple of these sons of guns to handle. And that's not too bad at the end of the day here. Ooh, and a Quicksilver wand. That could definitely come in handy, especially considering the fact that we left Blork somewhere earlier in the floor here. And we now have a method of getting rid of their haste if they take that same approach in our next meet and greet session that comes up here. And there we go, my Bombardier friend. Don't know why I struggle so much with the name of that monster in particular, but definitely seems to be a consistent problem point in my speech. And okie dokie. Oh my gosh. Uniques left, right, and center. A little bit of torment. Definitely could have been a problem, but fortunately we get through. And ooh, we find ourselves at a bit of a decision point here. Do we want to pivot away from the gods I've mentioned so far? Because Ash, we have not had an opportunity to play with yet. I'm trying to think of what skills would be beneficial to increase through the curse system. Of course, we could take away the need to train that last little bit of ranged. That's always nice. Here, there's some pretty agnostically good ones fighting Evo pretty much any day of the week. I'm happy with those. Maybe we do pivot here. We play a little more loose and take advantage of whatever the dungeon throws our way. Early Ash Altar definitely fits the bill to a certain extent there. Let's try it out. At the very least, we'll identify our possessions once we get to a certain tier of piety here, and that is a lifesaver when it's me piloting the run, because it takes away the innate danger of my inability to remember to do so myself. Hello, Mustachio. Holy moly. Well, that very quickly became a few too many friends. But okay, let's try out this one for size. We can bring Blork upstairs. And if you haste up, we can Quicksilver. Actually, we can maybe Quicksilver in general just to get a heavy hit in there at the end. Hey, Dr. Pirate, how's it going? Hope your week is going well, friend. Lovely to see you, of course. And fantastic. Well, fortunately, there's nothing really to worry about in the run so far. I mean, I say that immediately after running into quite a few monsters that we were not fit to fight and ran away from, so maybe not the most accurate assessment of our situation here. But I don't know, maybe part of my optimism there comes from the fact that I'm actively dealing with things in real life that are much more serious problems. Specifically, if I can use this time to get my complaints out there, we just recently had one of the water mains in our house start leaking. Fortunately, just a small leak, because it's from one of the regulators in the system. But it has definitely been a pain in the rear to deal with. Currently, while we wait for the plumber to show up, we have a cup just sitting under there collecting the steady drip of the leak. And so every hour or so, I have to change that out. Or when I'm doing something like streaming here, just so we don't have to interrupt the session too much, I've just turned off our water temporarily. Which is not so much of a solution and more of a short-term coping mechanism. Ooh, and you know what? I didn't even see a +3 leather armor. That is quite fantastic here. Oh, and we did leave some friends wandering around. That is fun. Yes, dealing with that has been an interesting situation, to say the least. Please don't step in that alarm trap. Thank you. My good old friend. Beautiful. Going good, but it's only Sunday. True enough. Well, hopefully the rest of the week, as it just starts to get off the ground tomorrow, goes well for you. I'm definitely, yeah, hoping the same on my end. It's been a crazy last little while here. Many moving pieces, but starting to settle in to my new routine. All right, down in Duvessa. I probably should just walk away from this situation, especially as soon as you start throwing out fancy magic, it'll be a problem. Or not at all. Excuse me? Down? Were you okay? Didn't get mad? To die or not to die? And unfortunately, often the case is the latter there, but so far we're managing to successfully stay alive at the very least. Oh no, did I speak too soon? So we immediately run into some problems here. I'm gonna start drinking some of our potions. We ID our curing. Would be nice to get heal wounds or mutations. That's fine too. Interesting. We gained and lost a mutation and then still are left with a little bit of clumsiness, which is less than ideal for sure, but not the end of the world. And a potion of might doesn't help us out a great deal. I guess maybe we resort to Quicksilver. Again, it's good damage, even if we're not taking advantage of all of the effects, specifically the unraveling of enemies' magical systems, but again, not the end of the world, and it does manage to just barely squeak us by there. And let's see. Devices is Evo and shapeshifting. Oh right, Ash has changed slightly in this version. I kind of forgot that shapeshifting was a thing ever since we did our Oni runs and got through that in one piece. Well, dodging and stealth is okay, I guess. I am a fan of evocations though. Especially since we could curse something that is not too critical for us here. So I'm looking at the gloves and the boots at the moment here. Well, let's do it just to give ourselves a little bit more power, a little bit more piety. I'd like to get to the point where everything gets ID'd, so we at least get that kerfuffle out of the way nice and early. And so with that in mind, I think we'll use that ability on our boots and see how it goes from there. If I can take care of you kids quickly enough. Perfect. Fortunately, that does end up being the case. And then for the rest of you, I was taking a quick glance around to see if there's anywhere that we could take advantage of our digging ability. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in the middle of the level, so there are a couple places where we could at least get a one wide kill corridor, but nothing really that hides us from our polearm friend here. And they will very quickly start to become a problem. We seem to have broken their AI a little bit here, so I am gladly going to take advantage of that, as long as we can take care of our water moccasin buddy. Perfect. Tuck ourselves away in a corner, heal up, and I guess just jump right back to it. We do have a decent amount of might potions, so there's potentially something to be said for having a backup melee option in our backpack here. But won't worry too much about it for the time being. Economical Temple, too little too late, my friend. We're already happily paired off with good old Ashenzari.